Welcome to a special edition of the Political Fallout Shelter, where we come to you from a windowless basement in the Capitol, with political bombs dropping above us right at this moment. I'm Leo Shane, Deputy Editor of Military Times. Joe Gould is somewhere out there, hopefully surviving all this political fallout. With me instead is Andrea Scott, one of our writer-editors over at Military Times. Andrea, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Baseball started. The birds are chirping. How are you doing?
Lovely, nice, relaxing week. Except, the VA secretary was fired by the president.
It
So,
was crazy in the newsroom. It was so much news. You've interviewed him a few times.
yeah,
Give us the play-by-play. What happened?
Yeah, it's been just a bonkers 2 months with VA recently. There was a gigantic IG report that came out in February, really criticizing his handling of a single travel incident last summer, this one overseas trip. And that has ballooned into this just ongoing saga over there. Lots of political intrigue, lots of political infighting, and now it ends with the VA secretary ousted for the second time in 4 years. This is a department that's seen quite a bit of leadership upheaval and quite a bit of uncertainty and public blows. So now we've got the president nominating a new VA secretary. We've got the old one writing an op-ed in the New York Times saying he thinks he was forced out for political reasons and that there's a secret plot to overthrow VA health care, to undermine veterans' care. Really just very tumultuous times for the department.
Was it just the report, or do you think there's more to that?
I think some of this was his handling of it and the backlash that came from it. Secretary Shulkin was very open with me, very open with a lot of reporters, and was not afraid when that report came out to come talk to us about what he thought the errors were. In his New York Times piece today, he said that he felt like he couldn't adequately defend himself. The VA comm staff actually took down a statement that he had posted defending his actions and rebutting what the IG had said on this. So that really started this infighting at the White House and a lot of concerns about how he was handling this, what he was saying, who he was saying it to. And we've heard this slow drip coming out that the president was losing confidence in him. Chief of Staff Kelly was losing confidence. The president was starting to interview some other people to take over for him. And now, via Twitter, as is the policy of this administration, he was canned on Wednesday.
Yeah. It just makes me wonder, though, what was the final trigger?
Yeah, and that's the tough part here. We're not really sure. The president had a speech just a day later, just today, saying that he was frustrated with ongoing problems with wait times at the VA. But that doesn't match up to his past rhetoric, and there's certainly nothing that changed in the last few weeks on that issue. If anything, the wait times look better than they did 6 months ago at VA. So I think it was a matter of the president, feeling like this was a comfortable time. It is just the latest in a series of high-profile dismissals over there. The Secretary of State Tillerson and his National Security Advisor, H.R. McMaster, were just tossed. So it could be that this is sweeps week, and it's time to change over the cast and introduce some new characters.
I mean, I know he was pretty well respected. How are veterans groups taking this?
Yeah, the veterans groups had really rallied around Shulkin in recent weeks and said, look, he's made a lot of reforms. There was a lot of success in the past year. You need to keep him in place. They're not openly revolting right now, but there are a lot of concerns about what does this mean? How, again, this is the second time in 4 years they've seen the top leader ousted because of scandal. What does this mean for the department? Is it are they going to be able to move ahead? Are there other reforms they can do? Is it going to be just a free-for-all at this point? And who's really going to be in charge? It's not just the issue of Trump's nominee, which is his own White House physician. It's the interim director, who's a brand new person coming in from DOD, Robert Wilkie, who handles personnel for DOD right now. It's whoever else leaves, whatever brain drain happens with other senior officials. There's just going to be a lot of turmoil in VA in the next few months. And veterans groups say, what does that mean for a lot of just routine work that has to get done?
You just mentioned Rear Admiral Jackson. How's he going to do in this job?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
We don't know a lot about him right now. I mean, he's the White House physician. He served under President Obama. He served under President Bush. He's a well-respected military man.
Gave President Trump a clean bill of health.
Gave President Trump a clean bill of health and created some controversy with that too. All the reports of folks who know him are all good. They also don't say anything about the VA whatsoever. I mean, he's not a veteran. He's somebody who's actively serving right now. He's going to have to retire before he takes over the job. So the initial reaction was from a lot of lawmakers is, well, I'm interested to meet him and find out what he knows about this job, whether or not he's ready for it, and whether or not he can handle it. Look, this is a gigantic agency. It's a $200 billion agency with 370,000 plus employees. 1,200 medical facilities across the country. I've talked to quite a few people who have said it doesn't really matter what your past background is. You're probably not ready to become VA secretary, no matter what it is. But he's coming from a pretty small staff for the White House medical staff, and from a real sort of unique corner of the military. So he hasn't been exposed to some of these larger issues of, controversies over GI Bill benefits, controversies over how much private sector care should there be for veterans. Just dealing with the veterans groups and what their priorities are and how this is. So the confirmation hearings on this should be very interesting. We've got a lot of Republicans who are cautiously saying, well, we'll see what he has to say, and a lot of Democrats who are saying Trump seems hell-bent on causing chaos and possibly pushing a lot more taxpayer dollars to the private sector, dismantling parts of the VA. We're going to look very harshly at Admiral Jackson and see what his opinions are. It could be a long confirmation process. I've heard from folks up here that say they hope this moves very quickly, but it's tough to say right now. And veterans groups are just watching, saying, we'll see. We know it's not going to be as simple as the last one, where Dr. Shulkin was coming from part of the VA. He was a known quantity. Sure, there were plenty of questions about how he works in the Trump administration, but not nearly the same expertise and not nearly the same familiarity as Admiral Jackson is.
So with Admiral Jackson in, is this the last we've seen of Secretary Shulkin?
It doesn't appear that way. I mean, he had an op-ed up on the New York Times site within a few hours of getting dismissed, and it was a fairly angry one. He's not throwing a lot of punches at President Trump, but he is taking aim at a lot of folks within the VA who he feels were insubordinate and undermined him. He's really harped on this issue of private sector care, and this has been the key for healthcare reform and the key to a lot of the policy fights. He's promising that he's going to remain active, and he's going to name names, he's going to point fingers, he's going to be frankly an irritant to some of these things. Now, he did go on NPR later in the day and say he has the utmost respect for Rear Admiral Jackson. He's happy to work with him, he's happy to do that, but there's still a lot of the folks that he's angry at in the administration in VA. And we'll see in coming days how many other changes there are. Like I said, there's going to be folks who were sympathetic to Shulkin who want to get out the door. There's also going to be folks I know of who were opposed to Shulkin who are going to be exiting soon too. So, it's going to be a really complicated situation. And again, goes to that issue of how much turmoil, how much chaos is there going to be, and how much can they get done if that's what's going on.
Especially while still caring for our veterans.
No, exactly. And that's the fear, is that routine things like getting benefits checks out, hiring new doctors. Does all of this get disrupted if the leadership at the top is just in complete disarray?
We'll find out. It sounds like there's a lot still to cover here.
Yeah, I don't think I'm getting any days off soon. I think the editors might want me to stay on.
No more spring break.
Well, listen, we'll be back with more of this next week with the next political fallout shelter. You can follow it all online at militarytimes.com. I'm on Twitter at Leo Shane. Andrea, you're on there too.
I am _Andrea Scott.
So please tune in again next week, and we'll see what political bombs are falling then.